Hey guys, welcome to the live. So I will just say this before I begin, just in case I decide to post this on YouTube. This is a pre-recorded live on my Patreon channel. So if you'd like to be notified of the Q&As and participate in the Q&As and be notified of the lives, then you can join my Patreon channel. I'll put it in a link in the description. But hey, happy almost weekend. Hi, Jorge. Hi, Tim. Hi, Marisa. Hi, Cheryl. So I'll just wait for a few more of you guys to log on. And I think I saw Lauren's post. So I'll read Lauren's post to everyone so we can send her some well wishes. She says, Megan, I won't be on. I'll be welcoming or already just welcomed our beautiful baby girl into this world. You post this question often on Telegram, and I love it. Curious to know what you think the difference between believing and knowing is, if there is one. Yay, Lauren. So let's send Lauren some love. Congratulations. If the baby is already here, if not, she'll be coming soon. So that's exciting. But the question, so she asks, what is the difference between believing and knowing? To me, believing is like the mind or the brain gets curious about something, so you decide to believe in it. It's like a conscious decision. So it's more of like I don't mean this in a negative way, but like a mind programming sort of. It's a system, it's a belief. I believe that it kind of exists in density. Like the reason that I post that question on my Telegram is because the difference is in the intention, the difference is in the energy behind it, right? So a lot of people believe certain things are going on in the world, but there's a difference in the energy than actually knowing. When you know something, it's kind of like the lions that I always post. You walk and talk and feel in your body like it comes from being connected to the universe. It comes from divine intuition. It comes from being connected through the heart to source, and that's where knowing comes from. Believing is more of an activity in the mind, and it's sort of like a mind game, right? So let's use the aliens for example. So some people believe in aliens, right? And it's kind of like something that the mind does. Oh, I believe this is true. But when you know it's true, it's just a knowing. There's a peace that comes with it, versus where when you believe something, it's like the brain is always trying to prove that it's real. And so there's sort of a fear behind it, because when you believe in something, it kind of implies that there's could be an absence of the belief, and then it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Versus knowing is all encompassing. It's a knowing of the universe. So yeah, and by the way, super nice weather out today, and I wish that it would continue like this, but I'm kind of we'll just celebrate today, because I don't know if I'll get another day like this where it's like 60 degrees, so that we can do the lives outside. Hey Heather. So yeah, so that's why I wanted to do the live in the middle of the day today. Tim asks, Tiki Tim, how can I clean or clear my chakras? So chakras are, basically what we're doing here, and I've explained this before, is we're transforming and transcending dense energy, right? So in order to, it's not that when I talk about blockages, it's basically that we have a belief system that is blocking the energy, or all of our energy, to come in. It takes up space. It's consciousness, but it's a dense form of consciousness. So, and this is why I talk about the truth, because it can be a form of consciousness that you believe to be true, right? Which is and it is true from a certain perspective, but is no longer serving you anymore, right? And so that stuff is brought to the surface to be released, and you welcome your higher levels in, but it can block the dense consciousness can block your chakras. It's not even really you. So I mean, I when I read you guys, I talk about where I see the blockages, and it implies like where we receive and give energy in certain areas of the chakra correspond to belief systems. So like the root chakra has to do with safety, the sacral chakra above it has to do with receiving love, the solar plexus is your power source, your sense of personal power, right? And a lot of those, the three lower chakras are basically when we talk about the matrix, is basically where these energy systems are built from, lack of safety, um lack of love, lack of personal power. What does that imply? That the energy is outside of us. So Tim also says Lola is outside. Hello. She's looking at the horses. Lola loves horse poo. Hold on, let me get a drink. I guarantee you when I take her inside, she'll have a chunk of horse poo that she's like hid somewhere, because what I'll do is I'll take her out, she'll go around, I won't be paying attention, I'll call her back in the house, and she'll run and hide, like she'll have a big piece of horse dung in her mouth and hide it in the house, and I'll find it later. Tim says, do we need to be conscious of possible food contamination by our G, the big G? I don't really think about that kind of stuff. If there was, what would we do about it? You know what I mean? It's either like most of us are, whenever information comes out, like this is like a classic thing, and there is some philosophy, right? Like I think that it's nice to be self-sustainable and make sure that you have like grow your own food, but for most of the people on earth that's not possible. So I noticed like every, like I've said this before, every like 3 to 6 months information information comes out, like your food source or the food supply might get cut off, and it just puts people into a frenzy, or someone has intel that we're not going to have enough food, and I just feel like I'm not doing that. If that happens, I'll deal with it when that comes. But how would we rectify? It just sounds like something that is said to promote fear. Yeah, so I don't really pay attention to that, and not to be, it seems like a lot of people get intel on that, and then they're also selling those government 6-month meal supplies, and it's like, come on now, I'll save the coupon code. No thank you. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. That's kind of my thoughts on that. I'll be there with the rest of you guys. I won't, I only have a certain amount of food to last me, so we'll see. Marisa says, good morning. Been missing the last couple of lives. Life. I know, life is busy. Cheryl says, hi. Hanging with cats, doing the Christmas decorations. Jeez. Well, I guess Thanksgiving is next week, so yeah, I guess it is almost Christmas, yeah. Marisa says, I'm going to part of my ancestral roots next month, Cancun, Mexico. Is it for us to clear ancestral lineage, or just do our own shadow work to get on the highest timeline, Ascension? Okay, good question. So the stuff that you came in, right? Like everyone chose their physical vessel or their physical body to incarnate into, right? And in that family, or whether you were adopted or raised in your birth family, in your own genetics is what is the physical body really is its density, right? And so what did I just say? I think it was to Tim. What we're doing is transforming and transcending density. So you're already in the physical body that carries all of your lineage, all of your genetic material with the energy that needs to be transformed and transcended. So you're already in the body. You can't really you don't really need to go anywhere in the body to heal your lineage, right? Because the body is your lineage, right? So whatever comes up, and again, whether you were adopted or raised in your birth family or whatever, however it happened, whatever comes up, right, it will be part of the dense consciousness that have been repeated patterns in your family that you are here to transform and transcend. And a lot of people, when you look at different races on planet Earth, most of them have been through the same type of issues, right? Like genocide, oppression, civil war. It's not really unique to any specific race. Like there's not really people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but there's not really any race that's more oppressed than the other when you look at, like, when you want to go through the entire history of the planet, you know. And it's not that anyone actually has been oppressed or specifically like targeted. This is just genetics that are part of the body. What I'm speaking of is you are spirit, you are light, right? So it's just what we're talking about is basically a physical experience. So it's not what I'm trying to say is basically, if you're in a human body, we're all transforming and transcending similar issues and similar beliefs, similar things that have been holding us back. Yeah, that's my answer. But I mean, if you want to go to Cancun, Mexico and learn more about it, you know, there's no harm in doing that. And if your heart is calling you there, then why not? You know? Um and the second part of the question, I just want to make sure I answered it. Is it for you us to clear ancestral lineage or just to do our own shadow work to get on the highest timeline ascension? Hold on, I gotta have more of my kombucha. um um I don't know. What do you guys think that the highest timeline ascension means? What does that mean? And then I can answer it more. And let me just make sure that everyone on Patreon is okay logging in and everything, and everyone could access the link really quick. Brian says we will never run out of food. It puts, yeah, generally, okay, it's like, what is the information out there? The world is ending. Okay, great. Like our government, you know, is falling apart. Okay, great. Oh, by the way, you're going to run out of food. It's just like, it's just too much. Leave me alone. Just stop. Okay. Thanks. Like I myself alone can like surmise my own deepest fears and things like that. Like I don't need your help. Like I don't need the news's help. I don't need input that way. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Okay, so it looks like everyone is great to log on. I'll just take a couple questions from Brian is also bringing up you know, the issue with Israel. And yeah, there's basically many different layers to it. And I would suggest that the most upsetting narrative is going to be played by it is going to be used as a form of propaganda. I'll just say that. Okay. Let me get back to the chat. Heather says, I was coughing up a lung for the last week and a half. I'm going to call it Ascension. And oh, I think my dog, Tobeo, had a stroke or has dementia. Not sure which one. I, I got him CBD peanut butter. Um, well, my allergies have been really bad this time of year, which is really strange because usually it's gone. They're gone by November. But I'm also out with the horses, and it brings up, like, they have so much dust and the hay and everything. So that's been causing me problems. Um, but generally, I feel like, yes, ascension symptoms, and a lot of people talk about fatigue, um, and headaches, and I have experienced both, but it only ever, for me, ever lasts like a couple days. And really what it is it's your body and your mind adjusting to your new, more energy coming into the body. So that might make your body tired, or it might give you a headache, because again, it's like more energy opening yourself up. I don't know about coughing up a lung. um, oh, that's funny. Heather's laughing. Marisa says, yes, the pyramids are a big part of the area. Lots of atrocities done with the consciousness of that time, temple sacrifices. Yeah. And so this is the thing too. It's also doesn't necessarily have to be a genetic or like a physical thing like that. It's just that many of us have had past quote unquote past lifetimes of traumatic experiences, and part of the reason of incarnating into third density is because that energy is it's manifested, it's on the same frequency level. So you come down and everything is really slowed down in this plane to help make you aware of those traumatic experiences, or I call them trauma, but once you kind of, for lack of a better word, get over it or see it from a certain perspective, it takes the trauma out of it, which is the point of incarnating here. So it's everything, it's on the same resonance, whether you physically experienced it in this lifetime or in past lifetimes as well. It will all come together. There's a lot more that is, energy is energy. So its consciousness can exist outside of third density or physical realms. Francis says you have to inhale a lot of smoke to cough up a lung. Yeah, be honest, Heather. Have you been smoking cigarettes or smoking weed? Tell us the truth. Tell the truth, Heather. Tell the truth. I was telling my friends this the other day. I hate smoking. But if I'm stressed out, I do imagine having myself a cigarette, but I don't smoke. Like, I would never go to the store, pick up a pack of cigarettes, but sometimes I imagine or fantasize about having a cigarette, and it has the same effect. And when I was a nurse, like when I got really stressed out, I would imagine myself, and it would have kind of a weird thing to say, but it worked. So I totally understand why people smoke. Heather's laughing. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Hey Jessica, hey Candace, hey Peter, hey Nancy. Candace says, hi Megan, it's a beautiful day here in Canada too. Yeah, I don't know if you probably can't see the mountains behind me. Maybe you can, at least in the reflection. Heather says, I feel like what you have taught us has helped my entire family. Yeah. So, basically when you raise your consciousness, you are helping the other people around you. So it starts with you. We don't have to, it's not really possible. like you can assist and help other people, but you can't actually heal anyone. They have to heal themselves. Hi, Megan. Anything you can talk about or say about the weather? It's unusually warm. I know it is. I mean, I don't have any information on the weather that you guys don't have. I'm enjoying it. I've never really liked the cold, so if this is climate change, okay. Just kidding. But no, I don't know. It is unusually warm where I live in Virginia. So um Nancy says, how do you feel about the monetary system and the need to have extra cash on hand and having precious metals? Yeah, so like there's a lot of philosophies. People don't have their money in banks, or people are buying silver, people are buying gold, coins, that kind of thing. I personally don't do anything like that. I feel like the monetary system will be transitioned in a way that will be best for all of humanity. I don't think at this point that they could take down like the monetary system. I think that when you look at it a certain way, there's certain monetary systems that are falling, but if you also look at it, there's other ones that have already been put in place. So I feel like the transition will go as smoothly as possible. I don't think that I I'm a weird person. Like there are some things where I just sometimes I think to myself, like when I think about money, I say to myself, I'm like, Megan, worst worst case scenario, you can just sleep and rough and stall while he's turned out at night. So, and I'm honestly like, I probably wouldn't prefer that, but I'd also be totally okay with that. So I'm kind of a weird, I have my own way of looking at things, but in the broader sense, to answer your question, I feel like there will be a transition, and it will be in the best way possible for the good of all. Francis says, I'll take it if it means better climate. Yeah, I mean, being warm all the time, like Florida is very humid, so it's not really like you enjoy the heat. Out west, I think it's a little bit different, but I'll get used to the winter. Petra says, hi Megan, sending you and everyone on this live lots of love. It's a gorgeous day. Yeah, so beautiful today. Okay, let's see. Candace says, I've been struggling with sleep, waking up every night between 2 and 4. It seems to be worse if my partner is in bed, but if I sleep in a different room, I can sleep solid. Is there something around that? When you when you wake up, are you able to go back to sleep, or do you just wake up and then you're not able to go back to sleep? Peter had a technical problem last week. He says, hi, Megan, here now. My virtual shields kept me from connecting last week. It's off now. Cool. Oh, guys, check this out. This is creepy as hell. Remember, I don't know why I updated my Mac, and then it just started doing these creepy Nancy says, I feel palpable energy from you while I'm on this video. I think you are activating us just by speaking to us. Yeah, well, that's kind of like the point of existing, right? I mean, you bring the light in, and then that light, it doesn't have to be, it just has to be you, right? So your light, and then by by being you, then you activate other people, help raise other people's energy and help them look inward, help them feel into themselves. And that's basically the name of the game. And that's why you don't really have to do anything. Like, you don't really have to save the world. It's a little bit more simple than that. Lo, you want to come say hi? Come here, Lolly. Come here, Lo. Lola. Lola. She's looking out hunting a little, aren't you, Lo? Okay, go play. Now she's gonna sit on my lap. Candace says, after being up for 2 hours, I can, but it's usually only for another hour or so. When I feel into it, it's kind of you know, when I feel into it, the first thing I pick up on is fear of being alone. Yeah, the first thing I pick up on is fear of being alone, and I see the sacral chakra. Oh, this is okay. This is interesting. This is, a lot of people do this. It's between the ages of 4 and 10. It's like nobody wants to be alone, but also people don't believe that they're worthy of receiving love. And so when you don't let the love in, then you feel lonely, right? Or if you're afraid to start to become afraid to hide yourself, uh if you make the decision, start to be afraid to be yourself, then you're also closing the door from having or receiving love, right? Because when you look at celebrities, right, they're playing, like Marilyn Monroe. She was actually Norma Jean Baker, and no one knows who the hell that woman is. But everyone loves Marilyn Monroe. So when people say that they love Marilyn Monroe, they love the image that she projected, or that was projected to the public, but that image isn't real. So the person inside isn't actually receiving love. It's actually a very lonely experience because nobody sees the real you. They only see who they want you to be. And so there's something in every single person does this. So I'm kind of picking up on that. So, you know, like I've explained before, the little child decides, you know, I have to be a certain way in order to get love. And then it's a cycle over and over and over again. So I feel like there's something in there too also. So in a way, Candace, you're choosing to be alone out of fear. Does that make sense? Which is why you might be able to calm down in a room when you're alone, because then you can't be hurt. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I'm picking up on. Jessica says, creepy, I LOL'd. Oh, I don't know what was creepy. Maybe Jessica says, a frequent memory from 6 years old. I don't know why. I was staying the night at my friend's house next door, stuck home in the middle of the night, and my dad was standing in the lawn like a statue. Oh gosh. Okay, hold on, let me get a drink. You know, in memories or subconscious memories, there's energy behind everything, right? So, you know, with Candace's situation, there's stuff behind everything, and it doesn't always look what it is on the outside versus what it actually is. So I feel like when I tune into it, Jessica, this is a recurring theme for everyone too. So I'm glad you brought this up. It's almost like a fear of the person that is supposed to take care of you is not who you thought they were. They're somebody different, somebody not to be trusted, somebody that is acting strange, looking strange, that they're not actually in control, but they've told you that they're in control. So what does that theme basically sounds like, right? There's a lot going on in the world where the people that we trusted are not really who they say they are. They're not actually taking care of us. And this is why everybody's childhood wounds and darkness, so to speak, is coming up to be healed. So but that's what I pick up off that's what I pick up off of when I tune into it. And so everything too is a my question to you back, and you don't have to share on the live, is to ask yourself, where are you putting the energy outside of you still expecting to be taken care of, expecting to be, you can call it saved, but let's just use a different word, expecting to be watched out for, and that it's not going to happen. So then you get into like fear of abandonment and this kind of thing. And the truth is that you can never, if you're the entire universe, right? If you're the energy and the light that expands the entire universe, right? And you can imagine a little girl, or maybe you were a little boy, not you, Jessica, but the other men on this live. Or maybe you were, I don't know. But if you're the energy of the entire universe, right? Can you truly be alone? Is it you that's alone? Is it possible to be alone? And the answer really is no. So when you look, it's the density or the body or the brain that starts to believe it's alone, but you are the consciousness, the expansiveness, the light outside of the body, right? So this is just a part of density. It's a part of fear of the ego brain that is coming up. And that's it. So the truth is that and going back to Candace, it's, if if you are love, right? Can you ever be out of love? Can you ever do you need love from other people if you are love, right? And so this is also, the ego has created a bunch of different complexes to attain love, but it's not actually love. It can't, the brain actually can't comprehend who source is or who you are, because there's no beginning, there's no end. It's love. And when you think of like the brain or maybe AI, it can't compute that. Like, it doesn't calculate, it doesn't add up, because the brain is basically like, it's a calculator, it's a computer. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that's the only answer, right? Versus when you're talking about a universal consciousness, it can't understand that, right? So a lot of people are like, wow, Megan, you are so crazy and confusing. And it's actually it's actually a compliment, because the brain, it's hard for the brain to understand what is source. Hey Lisa, hi Susanna. Oh, Jessica says the thumbs up is creepy. I know. We were on a live a couple weeks ago, and I started, I was like this. Look, it'll do it now. Why are you doing that? What's the point of that? Yeah, so weird. Let me just go back to the homepage too. And just check on everybody's questions on there and look at someone's questions. Some people can't be present, so they'll post their questions on the homepage. Okay, just bear with me just a second while I find my place again. Rahana says, my lawyer has left a message for me to contact him. It has to do with the loss of my job for not taking the quaxine. and the matter has been taken to court. Any insight into if I'm receiving good news regarding settlement? Thank you. Love and light. Well, I'm not really doing readings like I used to anymore. Um, but it's more about the energy that inspires the question, right? Because I could give you a reading or give you a prediction, right? But what we're really trying to do is transform the consciousness that manifests the question, right? Because a lot of psychic readings, it's not that there's anything wrong with them, but most of the reason why we go to psychics or mediums is out of fear, right? And so if I were just to placate your fear instead of giving you insight into why it's happening in the first place, then it's not really in alignment with my integrity. So um when I tune into, let me just get a drink first. Um, when I tune into it, and would be like a very valid and natural feeling, it feels like there's a feeling of, you know, being cheated out of something, um, being forced out of a position, having your livelihood taken away from you, right? And basically on a very high level, everything is a choice, right? So you chose this experience for a reason, so it kind of takes the victim consciousness out of it. Not saying that you weren't victimized, right? But it can make it a little bit lighter, right? Because when I tune into it, it's still wanting for what's fair to be fair, what's right to be right, and you're going to be basically vindicated, and a wrong is going to be a wrong is going to be made a right, right? And so it's still using any type of legal system, and there are places for it, is still using sort of like the matrix system, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but it's the energy behind the problem is that somebody took your power away and you want it back, right? And so can the court really give you your power back? um and did you really lose your power to begin with, right? Can anyone truly take your power or your energy away from you? How is that possible? If we're all part of source, why would you need to argue, or why would you need to fight and take the power over here, or I take the energy? So where is this all coming from? Again, it's ego games. So it's basically a back and forth. And so if you imagine yourself as light, as consciousness, and make yourself as big as the entire universe, right? And then you can imagine the lawyers and your lawyers, and I usually visualize, or I see that as density. It's not evil, or it looks like darkness, but it's not evil. It's just basically density. And what are they doing? They're going back and forth saying, you owe me, I owe you, you owe me, you owe me, and it's a back and forth, right? And so if you have the understanding that basically, why do you need energy from these people if you are the energy? And the answer would be that you don't. Or maybe you have a different answer, and this is the belief systems that are put into the ego. I wonder what other emojis you can do, Megan. I don't know. I don't want to find out. um Francis says the brain and love are separate things. Yes. Love is unconditional, right? And the brain is always processing information, trying to find conditions, right? So I'm good, you're bad, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm better than you, I'm less than you. That is basically the ego talking, putting conditions on whether or not you're good enough, blah blah blah. It tells all these stories, but basically you are love. That's why, when you awaken to who you are, then it helps. you kind of step out of the matrix, because not the matrix is basically built on people participate in it because they want love, but they are love. That's why this place is so ironic. Um okay, let's see. Hey Lori. And let me just make sure I'm, and somebody else on the homepage, I think it was Mary Olivia. She asked about her job and getting a settlement. And it's the same energy as Rahana's question too. It feels like the same type of problem. Candace says, interesting. I'll sit with that. Thank you, Megan. Lisa says, I'm late. Hello, beautiful Megan in chat. Send you all love. Hi, Lisa. Cynthia says, hi, it's my birthday. I'm happy to catch your live. I can never think of a question, but anything from the spirit side of something I need to hear in this moment. Yay! Everyone say happy birthday to Cynthia. Woohoo! What's today? The November 16th. You know, when we use the words need to hear, do we need to hear anything? But I think it's I know what you mean. Excuse me. But it's an interesting question, and this will help people too. When you're in yourself and when you feel your own energy in your body, there's no needs outside of yourself, right? Like does God, or when you think of ascended masters like Jesus Christ, would he need anything outside of himself if he is light, if he is love, right? So when you connect with, oh look, everyone's tuning in saying happy birthday. When you connect with the spirit side, or when you connect with, basically what we're all looking for is a deep connection within ourselves, right? So when you ask but anything from the spirit side of something I need to hear in this moment. So when you ask for spiritual messages, what you're basically asking for in an ironic way is a message from yourself. Because it's you that chose everything. It's you that has all the information and the understanding to transform and transcend everything that you are going through, everything that you've ever experienced, from now until the end of time and the beginning of time again, right? So we don't really need anything outside of ourselves. That's a perception, because the brain doesn't really know what it is. It's always trying to figure out what it is, which is why it's calculating everything all the time. It kind of it's always perceiving that it needs something or acquiring something, if that makes sense. So yay, everyone says happy birthday. Kimmy says hi, Megan, and everyone. Look at Kimmy's dog, everybody. What a cute dog. And let's see. Someone wrote an interesting question about super soldiers. I think I lost it. Oh, Petra. When my 21-year-old son describes many of his dreams, it reminds me of testimonies from super soldiers. Let me get a drink. Yeah, so basically, what that can be is everybody's had, it can be one of two things. Well, it could be many things, but in my mind, I'll explain different possibilities. The subconscious, or when you're dreaming, and maybe you've suppressed memories like in childhood. I mean, everyone has, or you've had traumatic experiences or whatever. And let's just say you were not a super soldier in this lifetime or anything like that. You were just a normal person from wherever. I mean, everyone's normal, but you know what I mean. The brain, and let's say, but you play a lot of Call of Duty, or he likes a lot of war movies like Saving Private Ryan or whatever. His brain will try, the ego, the subconscious will try to connect a story around the traumatic experiences so that you can process and handle the information. And so it's not necessarily that he was actually in war or he actually experienced that in this lifetime. It's just the brain trying to process the energy of what happened. Like maybe he was beat up at school, or maybe something else happened, and it's just the subconscious, the brain's way of trying to process and understand information. I'll give you an example. Like, a lot of stuff too. There's this woman that does videos about foster kids and how to take care of the foster kids, because you know a lot of them come from abused homes. And one of the things she was saying, I saw one of her videos, was very true. The kids will act out in playtime what they've been through at home. So when a kid, you know, has an issue with mom or dad or whatever, they'll still act it out in playtime. And it's basically the brain's way of trying to process what happened, right? And adults do the same thing, we just don't play. We might have dreams, or we might project it onto someone else, but it's the same thing. It's the brain's way of trying to understand what happened. or um and basically what it is it's dense forms of consciousness or trauma coming up. Maybe he really did, I don't know, have an experience on Mars or wherever, maybe in this lifetime, maybe in a past lifetime, who knows. But it's dense forms of consciousness coming up to basically coming up to the surface to be healed in the subconscious. And this is the thing about experiences being a super soldier, being in contact with the Galactic Federation. Okay, it's still a storyline. It's still a story that the ego is saying, or it's not, it doesn't always have to be from the ego, but if you identify with it as a label, then it's coming from the ego. So a lot of people say, you know, I've talked about this, like labeling yourself as a contactee. Maybe you are a contactee, but when you identify with the label, you're limiting yourself. So maybe your son was a super soldier, but when he identifies with the label, he limits himself, right? So that's kind of my take on it. Okay, let me just. Oh, Rennie wants to talk about Ruffin. Let's talk about Ruffin. I could talk about Ruffin. I talk about Ruffin all the time. Megan, what are you doing? Talking about Ruffin. Yeah, Ruffin had he got EPM, and it's this thing in horses where basically it's like a parasite that gives them a lot of neurological issues. And so he hadn't been feeling well, like his levels were super high and he hadn't been feeling well for a while. And then finally he's been feeling great. And we've been having a great time, and he's awesome. He's such a good horse. Yeah, he's very aesthetically beautiful. He does have 4 white socks and, you know, the blaze and everything. Yeah, he's a cutie. Lisa says, any ideas as to why I can't perceive my chakras in color anymore? They're just white. I've read things both negative and positive. Why would it be a bad thing if you don't see them in colors? What does that mean to you? Like, why would it be a bad thing? I have not been. No, Heather, I haven't been ghost hunting. I don't really, you know, my perception of ghosts is that they're basically disincarnates, or they're entities, and they're stuck in a loop and they're stuck in their story, right? So it's part of It's basically a dense form of consciousness that is stuck in a loop, right? And this is why people see ghosts. You know, they're dressed in the 1800s, they won't leave their house. It's not that they're not real, but it's just a dense form of consciousness stuck in like a loop, if that makes sense. So I don't really find it entertaining, and I don't really believe that you can make them go away or make them do anything. I just think that if you are experiencing those things in your house and it's bothering you, there's some sort of belief system that's tying it to it. If you just raise your vibration out of it, then that it's almost like that stuff doesn't exist on on this plane, um if that makes sense. Love to Ruffin. Everyone says happy birthday, Cynthia. Lisa says color therapy, color connected to a specific energy frequency. So what does it mean if your chakras had no color? Let's just play a game. So what does it mean if you visualize your chakras and that all of your like there was no color in your chakras at all? What does that mean to you? There's no wrong answer. So if you, for now and the rest of your life, when you go to visualize your chakras and they're white, what does that mean to you? Not what it says online, just, there's no wrong answer. Heather says, yes, I completely understand. Just energy left. Yeah, it's just energy, and there's not really that much there's not that much intelligence to it behind it, because again, it's stuck in a loop. It's like talking to someone where 2 + 2 = 4, and that's kind of it. It's a manifestation that someone created when they were alive at one point, and I don't know how else to describe it. It's not really I guess everything's part of the universal intelligence, but it wouldn't be like speaking to someone who's crossed over or is in their light body, if that makes sense. Okay, let me just check on the homepage. And again, I'll repeat for people on YouTube, if I post this on YouTube, this is a Patreon live that's pre-recorded, so you didn't miss anything. If you'd like to participate in the chat with us and be notified of the lives, then the link to my Patreon is in the bio. Okay, let's see. Oh, Jessica says her husband's birthday was yesterday. It's a good week. Yay, happy birthday to Jessica's husband. Lisa says, I guess I'm not sure. Just a fear something is off, but I actually feel very connected to myself, so that's not logical. Yeah, so this is actually perfect. Why I asked the question. So it's basically coming from a fear that you're not good enough, or you're not the way that you're supposed to be, or that your chakras are supposed to be a certain color and your chakras are not, and so you're screwed, And so what does that sound like, Lisa? Is that is the ego, that is the ego that has built up all these expectations. We do it in the spiritual community too, of what things are supposed to look like or how things are supposed to be. But you say, I feel very connected to myself. So that is the you that is saying, I'm very connected to myself, right? And how could you be disconnected from yourself? So the idea that your chakras need to be a certain color and then they're not, and then it means something or it means this, is just a fear coming from the ego that you could be disconnected from yourself, right? And so basically welcome all the light into your body and put the ego outside of yourself. And what the ego is saying is, I'm afraid of being disconnected. I'm afraid of being abandoned. So this could come from a childhood wound, or this is another form of consciousness from a past life. But basically, when you feel into the truth of who you are, can you be possible? Is it possible, if you're the energy of the entire universe, is it possible to be disconnected from who you are? Is it possible not to be yourself? Right? No. So it's just the ego. The ego is it, it's part of the body. It's the house for the light, right? So it's not the light, so it perceives itself to be disconnected. So the ego is not wrong in saying that. It is disconnected by your ego. You're welcome. Petra says, thank you. My son went through some traumatic childhood experiences. No war games or movies, but he definitely has a warrior and family protector attitude. Yeah, and it may be stuff that is coming up from a past life. But generally, I'll find, like, if I'm dreaming and I have a dream, I can see, and I've woken up and been like, oh, there's a fear there that I need to go in and take a closer look at. It didn't really have it was there was an energy behind it, and it was fear, but the storyline that my brain had created was like lunatic stuff. It didn't really have what to do with what I was actually afraid of, and really, when you look at stuff, how do I say this? The storyline of stuff, when you look at the movies and stuff, it's all a drama. Like, even in comedy, there's drama, there's characters, there's identities, right? And so all of that stuff is basically part of the imagination. It's not that it's not accurate, right? Because if I say I'm a horseback rider, that is accurate. But is that all that I am? No. Is that my total identity? No. Oh, Tim asked a good question. Okay, this will be the last question, and then I'll log off. So Tiki Tim, how do you discern between intuition and rationalization, or thought versus spiritual nudge? Intuition really is based, like, if you put your hand over your heart, it really comes from the heart, and it's really a lot quieter than the brain, and trying to rationalize something. So it really comes from basically being in your body, and that's why I always recommend that people spend time in nature, and it's more of a softer nudge. And the brain, it's the ego is like the emergency firefighter, so it can be really loud, right? And this isn't about anyone specific, but have you ever, like, on YouTube, been on a spiritual page or seen on your homepage the giant words, urgent message from galactics, urgent message from Archangel Michael, or urgent message? Okay, the urgency, nothing is urgent. When it comes to the energy of the universe, or being in a spiritual, like being in your own spiritual presence, nothing is urgent, because it's the alpha and the omega, right? But the urgency comes from the ego. The urgency, the emergency message comes from the brain, right? If you can never die, right? If you could never ever die, if you live for all of eternity, what in the hell could be urgent? And if Archangel Michael knows that, and if the galactics know that, could it really be that urgent if you're connecting to source, to everything that is? Does that make sense? So yeah. Lo, you want to say goodbye? Say goodbye. Let me get her out of my back. Say goodbye. All right, guys. Look at her. She's got bedhead. Loli, show everyone your hair. You look so cute. You look so cute. She doesn't know what she's looking at. Yeah, look at your hair. Um So anyways, have a happy weekend, guys, and I'll be back next week. And yeah, love you guys.